Welcome to Left, Right, Center. I'm political reporter Sean Boyd. Calls are mounting for President Joe Biden to step aside and let someone else run for president. That after a debate performance that was incoherent at times. The debate was Biden's chance to refute questions about his mental fitness. Instead, he may have confirmed them.
He's the worst president in the history of our country. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history.
That exchange typical of this debate, a debate that was difficult to follow at times as both candidates ignored many questions and gave meandering answers to others. While Trump often twisted the facts, Biden lost his train of thought.
Dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security.
The oldest presidential candidates in history. They were asked about their age and ended up arguing about their golf game.
He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him.
Trump repeatedly steered the conversation to immigration.
We had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons.
The idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
They blamed each other for inflation.
He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam.
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy.
They clashed over abortion, too.
You had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody.
The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule.
They even disagreed on who should apologize.
He should apologize to me right now.
The idea that I have to apologize to you for anything.
While many Democrats are panicked after the president's poor showing, Biden himself seems to be unfazed.
Folks, I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth.
Joining me are analysts Republican Dick Wadhams and Democrat Mike Dino. So, Mike, Biden appears to have no intention of bowing out. So what options do Democrats have?
Well, he has the delegates with him right now, and so the only option is if he decides to release those delegates at the convention. And so I do think people are going to mull this over for a bit. It wasn't the debate I expected. I was hoping for a performance similar to his State of the Union, where he was definitely strong and forthright and very controlled in control. But that was a teleprompter situation, and then this was live and without a lot of scripting in front of you. So there's not a lot of options if the president doesn't want to budge.
Right. So if they can convince him to drop out, though, how do they go about replacing him? And really, who would they replace him with at this point?
Well, it'll make for a very exciting convention. Definitely. I mean, we haven't had a brokered convention since the 60s. I think it was in Chicago. Maybe, if I recall, maybe 68, when Johnson kind of all of a sudden said he wasn't running. And we had a lot of turmoil then. But I think that, would throw open the delegates, and you have Gavin Newsom, who was in the spin room last night. You have certainly Gretchen Whitmer up in Michigan. You have Roy Cooper in North Carolina. You have Andy Beshear in certainly in Kentucky, and maybe people will throw Jared Polis in there too. I mean, it's open. And of course, Kamala Harris, it cannot, be forgotten about. Now, that's interesting if both her and Newsom want to form a ticket. It goes back to what Dick was talking about with Rubio and Trump. They're from the same state, so that's not feasible. So it would make for an exciting convention, but a lot's got to happen between now and then.
So, Dick, Trump had his own kind of problem.
Sure.
With the facts.
Yeah.
He said everyone wanted abortion to be up to the states, that the environment and the economy were the best when he was president, better than at any point in history, and that, Biden encouraged Russia to attack Ukraine, and that China was paying Biden money. I mean, and on and on. Well, Biden repeatedly said that Trump was lying. I'm not sure. Did this register with voters, do you think?
What's new about Trump? I mean, that's what he does. He exaggerates at the very least.
With such conviction, he said.
Such conviction, yes. And he lied. But then Biden did too. When he said no American soldier died under his watch. Right. What about those 13 Americans in Afghanistan at the airport? I mean, it's I guess nobody told him that happened, or that day he didn't read his briefing papers. But no, I think this is a gift, Sean, for the Democratic Party, if they will take it. And the key people, I agree with Mike, I don't think he can be forced out of the race. But I will tell you that the people who could get him to drop out are Jill Biden and Biden's brother, who he's very close to, and their daughter, and probably Hunter, for that matter, too, if he's not strung out on drugs. The fact of the matter is they should take responsibility for his condition right now. And just like every other American does, at some point we all have to deal with parents who get elderly and can't take care of themselves anymore. He is that. But this is the equivalent, in my opinion, Sean, of elder abuse, to allow him to keep going. That is not a person we need in the White House. And everybody could see it, and you could see it in the liberal columnists and the liberal media type, and Democrats across the board. I've had a conversation with a couple of very key Democrats in Colorado, and I'll tell you what, they are beside themselves and sick about this.
So Trump was, I think, remarkably disciplined.
He was. And
even really restrained. He only made one comment about not being able to understand what Biden was saying, and that even Biden couldn't even understand it. Instead of piling it on, he kind of let Biden just get lost in his own jumble of words. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, Trump was, by his standards, good last night, and disciplined by his standards. And actually, I think Trump won whenever they were engaging in a conversation on immigration or inflation. I thought Trump won every one of those. Frankly, I thought Trump did well on abortion, in pointing out that the Democrats are pretty extreme on abortion, wanting 9th-month abortions, which they do, and he pointed that out. But Biden, he was incoherent a lot last night, and that's just the brutal truth. So, but if they don't get rid of him, Sean, if he doesn't step aside, Donald Trump's going to win this election and win it handily, I think.
So, Mike, regardless of how disastrous the debate was for Biden, there are lots of Americans who will not vote for Trump under any circumstance. But will they now vote for RFK Jr., for example?
I think,
that will effectively, mean a vote against Biden and for Trump. In that sense, it helps Trump and hurts Biden.
Well, I think if you were a voter that hadn't decided on either one of them, if you happened to want to watch it last night, I'm not sure a lot did, but if you did watch it, I think you would definitely look toward that third-party candidate now. I think that you want to give them more of an opportunity to get your vote. And Kennedy, in my view, he wanted to be on the stage, but it was probably good he wasn't, because neither of them, I thought Trump was full of crap, and I thought the president performed like crap. And neither of them, really distinguished themselves. And in terms of lying, they both lied about their golf game. So that, they were there. And I don't think, Dick said, elder abuse. I think that the president, wasn't where he should have been. I think he was the one who called this debate. And now he has to make a decision about, does he keep moving the campaign forward? Because he's in a tough position. It does put the Democrats in a spot where they may not win.
As crazy as this debate was, that was the craziest moment when they started arguing about who was the better golfer, for heaven's sake, you know? Trump, Dick, was not only focused, he consistently bringing that conversation back to immigration and the economy, which polls show are the two top issues in this race. He was also more moderate. You mentioned, abortion. Yes, he pointed out where Democrats, their stance was saying it's too extreme, but he also said, I agree with the Supreme Court's decision not to ban the abortion pill, and, suggesting that it's okay that some states, have decided to be more liberal to allow abortion and others don't. I think he was clearly targeting suburban women here.
No doubt. No doubt, Sean. And in fact, he was good last night on a lot of fronts. And you're right. I thought he was dead on immigration and inflation, and Biden had no response really on that. And he's probably the first Republican to kind of go on offense on abortion. Normally, we kind of cower in the corner when Democrats attack us on that. It is time for Democrats to be held accountable for their own extremes on abortion, and I think he did that last night. Did he win the argument? I don't know, but he fought it to a draw. I think I really do. So yeah, Trump. His demeanor was better last night. If he could just keep from exaggerating and frankly lying about so much, if he hadn't done that last night, he would have won that thing so easily, so hands down. But he can't contain himself.
Well, Mike, Biden did score points here and there. I think about his line about Trump having the morals of an alley cat. For example, I think he was talking in the context of his criminal trial at that point. But sometimes, and perhaps it was because his voice was so weak, it was hard to tell whether he was, winning or losing. I think about he was asked what he would say to Black Americans who are disappointed with the lack of progress. And he needs those Black voters in states, swing states like, Michigan and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Did he help or hurt himself on that one, do you think?
He didn't get anywhere with it. I thought he meandered with his answer to that question.
He did tick off some things. I've done this for them, and I've done this for them. But
he always, the word Medicare seemed to, when he got to that, it set him off, 2 or 3 times he went off on a tangent with that, and that didn't help. I think, versus, Trump, who, he has such a lack of capability with substance. He only has a lie to tell. Biden has too much substance. He had too many 3-point things that he couldn't remember the 3rd point. And so he didn't help himself that way. And I think part of it, there wasn't an audience. Neither of them could get energy from that. And I think, Dick and I talked about this before. It's not, there's no teleprompters. And so, when you don't have those, neither of them, well, particularly the president, that's been helpful to him of late. Trump's always, is off the cuff no matter what. And that's why he says whatever he wants to say.
I think there was some were critical that the moderators didn't call him out, didn't fact check him. But really, I think it's up to Biden should have been fact checking. Trump should have done a better job of that. And so who prepped him for this?
Well, he had Ron Klain, who's a former chief of staff, Mike Donilon, who's one of his top advisors, who's gone over to the campaign, are 2 of the key people that prepped him for this. And I know Mike because he was Mayor Webb's pollster in 91 and 95, and they're good people. I mean, I think that they wanted this debate. They thought it was going to be a definitive moment, and unfortunately it was one against them.
Sean, I thought the moderators did really well last night. I really did. I think they allowed these 2 guys to interact and answer questions, and they didn't intervene themselves. Right. Frankly, they reminded me of you and how you've moderated debates, because you don't. I mean, you got people.
I don't want to be part of the debate.
That's right.
So I thought they did a good job.
No, I actually thought that last night. I thought they did an excellent job.
And they tried to press back. They said, hey, you got 82 seconds. You want to answer the question.
Yeah,
and they chose not to.
That was fine, yeah.
Right. So Trump said that he would accept the results of the 2024 election if It's fair, legal, and a good election. But he's already said, Democrats are going to cheat, and so I suspect if he loses that he's going to say this wasn't fair, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how much will that impact the vote, do you think, when people hear that? Do they... I mean, that's what I'm saying. What impacts?
He probably won't on people. I mean, he still contends the 2020 election was stolen from him. I mean, he still contends that. And I agree, if he loses this election, it will have been stolen from him. He won't be able to contain himself.
But is that something that people go, whoa, I don't want another January 6th.
Possibly.
Can't vote for him.
Possibly. Because I think there is some fear that our country is so divided and everything seems so disjointed right now that could happen again. But I don't care what he said last night. We know what's going to happen if he loses. He will contend that it was stolen.
It's interesting. While this debate was bizarre, I mean, I think all three of us, how many debates have we watched? And it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, it was surreal watching this one. But this race is really like no other. It just seems no matter what happens, you look at the conviction that happened at 34 counts. Nothing changed. The polls, I mean, they shift a little bit, but you don't see any real movement. So I wonder if this debate is going to just blow over and not have a major impact. Most debates don't have big impacts, right?
I think this will have an impact, Sean. I think Americans were shocked by what they saw with President Biden last night, and I don't think it's going to be a 10-point swing, but this is a game of inches. And what's ironic is that Biden was starting to inch up a little bit in the last couple of weeks, and the polls were starting to close, including the 7 swing states. But I think that has been totally stopped now. And I would be surprised if Trump doesn't go up 2 or 3 points, which is a lot in this race.
Yeah, and we talked about before the debate that usually, the way debates are set up, there's another one afterward that gives a candidate a chance, to absolve themselves and perform better. Well, we don't have that. The next big political event is the Republican convention, which will take a lot of advantage of this situation. And then who knows what the Democratic convention will look like. Like I said, I think this throws it all up in the air for the Democrats at this point, and we have some soul searching to do.
Right. So you said you're talking to Democrats.
Yeah.
And what is your best guess of what's going to happen here?
We're in trouble. I mean, I think.
But do you see them convincing Biden to step aside and pick somebody else?
He's a hard guy to convince, and Dick and I've been with candidates when we've talked about go or no go at the beginning, in the middle of campaigns, and I've had mixed results. Some have stayed in and won, and some have stayed in and boy, it's a long part of your life you're not getting back.
Yeah.
and so that's a hard discussion to have, and I think they'll have it. But it's hard to imagine him getting out.
I still think Jill Biden's the key.
Yeah.
I think if she's the one person, in addition to a couple of other family members, who could convince him it's time to step aside. But I'm not sure she wants him to. I think they kind of like living in the White House. I'm not sure she wants to give it up either.
He did say, I think it was a great debate after the debate. Right? He did.
What could he say?
He did. And she said, too, he did a good job. He told the truth. He answered the questions. He answered all the questions. So.
Well, how it started really just took the air out of a lot of people's sails as it related to Democrats wanting to see him do well at the beginning, and that from there that set the tone. It was hard to recover. He had some good moments, but by and large, it didn't get what they wanted to get.
Right. Even when he wasn't speaking, he looked kind of deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't help the side by side when he was staring straight ahead with his mouth kind of hanging open.
Yeah.
It was not a good thing. It was not a good look.
That didn't help him. And then Trump made faces. I mean, and
which he always does.
Which he always does, and it doesn't endear anybody to him. So they didn't help each other or help themselves throughout the event. And I think the president was the one who came out more with the deficit.
I mean, how many Americans, Sean, were sitting there going, "Are you kidding?
Yeah,
this is what we have to choose from." I mean, really. I mean,
especially when they start talking about golf. Come on.
Yeah.
All right, up next, fallout from Colorado's primary this past Tuesday. Welcome back to Left, Right, Center. Well, while Colorado isn't a swing state, one particular race is already drawing lots of national attention and money. The outcome of the race in Congressional District 8 could decide control of the U.S. House. The race pits first-term Democratic incumbent Yadira Caraveo against Republican Gabe Evans, a former Army helicopter pilot and police officer who most recently served in the state legislature. Congressional District 8 is Colorado's newest district and runs from northeastern Denver to Greeley. Super PACs on both sides are planning to inject millions of dollars into this race. Many, many millions of dollars. So, Mike, Caraveo is Colorado's first Latina congresswoman and the first person to hold this seat. This district was only created after the 2020 election, so we can't look back to see how Trump might play here. What do you think?
Well, you know, I think Trump has not played well in competitive districts in Colorado to a great extent. And but the more important thing is I think Congresswoman Caraveo has done a really good job. Just recently, the House announced their transportation projects. And she got 3 of her 6 in that bill for communities in Colorado and in her district. We've talked about recent money she's brought into the district. I think she's worked really hard for her district. And yeah, her opponent does have a good resume, but Barb Kirkmeyer did too. And again, it depends. If there's a strong third-party candidate, I think that affects the race too, and particularly would affect the Republican, depending on if it's a libertarian.
Caraveo sits on the Farm Committee too, and that farm bill is that expires in September. So
yeah, it'll have to be extended to the end of the month, and she voted for it out of committee.
Right,
with Republicans.
Right. Dick, I want your take on Trump's impact too, and also. Evans was endorsed by Trump, but really I think he's more mainstream in his positions on issues like immigration, for example. How does that play, do you think, in a general election?
The Trump endorsement? Yeah, well, it helped him win the nomination, although I think he would have without the Trump endorsement.
Oh, yeah,
but it did kind of pile on he got 71% or something like that. And by the way, the result of that primary mattered a great deal, because if Janak Joshi had won, this race would not be competitive at this point. The NRCC would have walked away, and Caraveo would be home free. But so it was an asset to him in the primary, but it will not be an asset to him in the general election. In fact, I think I know a lot of people think the Libertarians defeated Barb Kirkmeyer. I don't think so. I think it was Trump in 2022. But Gabe is a really impressive guy, and you knew him at the legislature. I think he was a very thoughtful and serious legislator down there, and so we've got a really good candidate, and that's all you can ask for. He's young, he's dynamic and smart, and he's got this great background as you laid out. So we've got as good a shot with Gabe Evans as we could with anybody else, frankly.
Right, but you remember you said that about O'Day.
Well, and remember what I said too, that it didn't make any difference ultimately because the Trump thing blew him away, and it could very well happen again to Gabe Evans in this district. It could.
Yeah.
And Trump wasn't on the ballot 2 years ago, literally. Now he will be.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that,
so it could have even more of an impact.
Yeah, definitely.
You're right.
And as we were talking about, donors may, be changing where they're sending their money, and may try to get more money into the congressional races for the Dems.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, the other Colorado congressional races likely to draw attention this year are in CD3, where it's Democrat Adam Frisch versus Republican Jeff Hurd, and CD4, where Lauren Boebert will take on Democrat Trish Calvarezzi. So, Dick, Boebert is the only Republican who's backed by the state party who won her primary. Even the chair of the state Republican Party, Dave Williams, lost by 30 points, I think, in CD5. So what's that say about the state party and about Boebert?
Well, Boebert had extraordinary advantages, Sean, as an incumbent member of Congress. Maybe she was running in a different district, but she was still an incumbent. That gave her tremendous advantages of fundraising and name ID. And frankly, the other 5 candidates had none of that. And so she was going to win that primary. There might have been a chance if there had been a head-to-head, but that didn't happen. But she only got 43% of the vote. So the incumbent member of Congress was not voted for by 57% of that district.
Yeah,
she's got to pay attention to that. But she's won, and the question is she going to clean up her act a little bit so she doesn't do to the 4th district that she did to the 3rd, which is turn a Republican district into a competitive situation? We'll see what happens.
What about the state party? What does this say about the state party when they lose every other except for the Boebert race? And I'm sure, I don't think their endorsement made any difference in her race in particular.
No,
but,
it didn't.
But where's the state party at now? You know, and they lose every race that they endorse, including the chair.
Yes, it's a dumpster fire right now. It is the so-called leadership of the state party, and I use that term loosely. They're unethical. They are. They have abused the party structure. They have abused party finances. And Dave Williams got what was coming to him in that. There is now a move to remove him as state chairman, and that debate needs to happen. And I don't know if it will succeed, but it will be the first time in 100 years that's never been tested or used before. So we'll see what happens.
So let's talk about CD3, Boebert's old district. Adam Frisch almost beat her.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like within 500 and some points there. Will this be close again, do you think, with Jeff Hurd now in the race?
Well, Jeff Hurd's the candidate they wanted. I mean, thanks to Congressman Boebert, Adam Frisch raised a lot of money. I think he's still raising money using her name. And probably will through the campaign. So he has a lot of money to spend. He's not on the Dems' target list. So he's really going to have to go on his own. He's up against a good candidate. He's been a good candidate. He has good name recognition. So he has a chance. He definitely does.
It'll be close, you think?
I don't know if it'll be close.
Okay. All right, I won't put you on the
depends on who we have running for president.
Yeah. Well, we also had some hotly contested state legislative races in the primary, and they resulted in a bit of a shakeup at the state capitol. 2 Democratic incumbents from Denver lost their seats as mainstream liberals largely prevailed over the far left wing of the party. Elizabeth Epps lost to Sean Camacho in House District 6, and Tim Hernandez lost to Cecilia Espinoza in House District 4.
Well, I think 2 things. We have seen more moderates. There's also been an analysis that some of the ones who won the primary are a little less moderate than the people they're replacing who are term limited. But I think by and large, how does it affect the Capitol? Well, Jared Polis, Governor Polis, weighed in on a lot of these primaries, including these 2. And I think by and large, he was the winner, and I think for the next 2 years, he'll be working hand in hand with a lot of these legislatures for some very reasonable legislation.
He always works hand in hand, and sometimes not hand in hand, too. He just, but he lets them know what he thinks, for sure. So, Dick, millions of dollars poured into these state legislative races. What do you make of that? So much money being spent, and did it have an impact?
Well, it's not a new phenomenon to have outside groups spending money in legislative races. It's been going on since the blueprint back in 2004, frankly. But and most of it has been from the left. The Republicans are still catching up to that. I think it did have an impact, and yet, Sean, I think that the 2 socialist Democrats that got beat, Hernandez and Epps, the 2 of them, they were so far out there. They were so on the far fringe of the Democratic Party. I think they were destined to lose those races, and there were really good Democratic candidates opposing them. So I think that had more to do with it. But it does raise an issue that our campaign finance laws are so restrictive that it moves money to outside groups that have no constraints on them, have no limits on them, and that's a totally separate issue. But Colorado needs to come to grips with that. You know, when we say you can only give $400 to a candidate, that moves the money to outside groups that are unaccountable, and that's the brutal truth of it.
A lot of those groups are supporting the more mainstream candidates too.
We certainly saw it in this election.
Of either side.
Right, and that's when it was.
Business interests to you know, decide, hey, if Democrats are in power, or if we're investing in safe seats, let's invest in the most reasonable person. We saw it on the Republican side.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for watching Left, Right, Center. We'll see you next time.